Well, joining me now in the studio to discuss this is Alastair Campbell, former Director of Communications at Downing Street under Tony Blair. The resignation of Rebekah Brooks, is that going to make enough difference to limit the damage?
I don't know, really. I think you're in the situation where every stage of this frenzy, which is what it's become for News International, they've sort of mismanaged it. So I think they probably think it will draw a line, but I'm not sure that it will. And I think now you've got the build-up to this Parliamentary Select Committee on Tuesday, where MPs will have a lot of tough questions for Murdoch and James and Rebekah. And you've also got the Americans now beginning to take an interest in this as well. So I don't think it's over at all.
How surprised are you that Murdoch has actually agreed to come to that committee? And also, I mean, so far he's been pretty unapologetic, certainly in print. I mean, we know that there might be some adverts coming out that apologise, but in himself, would you expect him to apologise at all?
I mean, I just think they're handling it so badly. So, as you say, he does an interview to a paper that he owns, the Wall Street Journal, where he's pretty defiant and he talks about they just made a few small errors. They realise that that's not going to wash with anybody, so they're then going to apparently spend lots of money putting adverts into their rival newspapers for him to apologise. And I think that because they keep moving the line, because they keep changing their approach on this, people just, I don't think they're believing them. So when, I mean, you know, Rebekah said how hurt and appalled she was and how shocked she was by the whole thing, and so did James Murdoch, and now Rupert Murdoch saying the same thing. And I think that, see, I saw Nick Ferrari in the clip there, and okay, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that Rupert Murdoch would have said to his journalists, you know, hack phones and go after the murder victim and go after terrorist victims and so forth, but it is a culture that he's created where a lot of his journalists will stop at nothing. And so I just think they've got themselves into a complete mess because they haven't had the right approach since this story first broke 2.5 years ago. And
just to go back, you mentioned the international aspect of it. I mean, in the States, how much pressure would he be under politically, or would his empire be under?
Well, I think, you see, at the moment, because it's all been the news of the world, the focus has been very much in Britain and News International. This suggestion of the phones of 9/11 victims being hacked, I think will resonate very, very powerfully in America. And if you think about it, they hacked the phones of the 7/7 bombings here in London, and 9/11, let me just remind people, that was the biggest loss of British life in a single terrorist attack in history. So you kind of think, well, they were hacking everything else, why wouldn't they have done? And I think if that comes out in America, and the other thing, of course, the Americans have this law, James and Rupert Murdoch, both American citizens, this thing about corrupt practices abroad. Well, the payment of police officers, which has been admitted by Rebekah Brooks at a previous committee, that's a corrupt practice employed by American citizens abroad.
And on that point, are you surprised that it went as far as the police? And is that going to, I mean, do you think that the inquiries that have been set up are actually going to go far enough to change a culture which seems like anybody could buy anything for any money?
I don't think it's that anybody could buy anything. I think that, you know, let's be honest, most journalists are good journalists, most police officers are good police officers, most politicians are good politicians. But you're always going to get a few. And I think that what's been exposed in the police is pretty rotten, to be absolutely frank. And I think it has surprised a lot of people. And also the competence of the police has really shocked people. And, you know, so the evidence that was given to the Select Committee the other day by senior police officers, I mean, I watched a bit of it and I thought, oh my, you know, these are the guys that are meant to be keeping our country safe. I didn't feel terribly confident in their competence, let alone their integrity, which at times was under attack.
And to go back to the politicians, was the climate simply too cosy between the media and the politicians? And actually, can you change that with laws that affect that? Is it always going to be there? Do they not just need each other? I think it will change just because the whole system is being shaken, and that's a good thing. Was it too cosy? At times it was. Equally, as you remember from time when you were covering politics in the UK, it was, a lot of the time, it was incredibly combative. I was always seen as the one who was very, very combative with the media, which I was because I hated what it was becoming. But I think that at certain levels, the relations between politics and the media, it was too cosy, it was too close. And I think we've got to get to a situation where politicians can govern without fear or favour, and the media can cover politics without fear or favour. And I think it just got too enmeshed, and it's good that this is now breaking apart. Just in a word, did you think the B-Sky is dead in the water?
Yes, I do.
OK, thanks very much, Alastair Campbell, thank you. And I'll have plenty more for you from Europe a little later on.